Okay, so welcome back, and in this video we're going to talk about changing from ordinary notation to scientific notation. So now we're going to go the opposite direction of what I spoke about in the previous video. So in this case, now I wrote my steps a little bit differently than what you may see in the textbook, but I think mine is easier to understand. But either way, it's the same thing. So to change from ordinary notation to scientific notation, the first thing that I would do is count the number of places I would have to move the decimal point to either the left or the right to get a number that's no smaller than 1 and less than 10. Okay? So, by the way, you just because I don't think I mentioned this in the previous video. So scientific notation, the first factor can be 1. Okay? So when I say between 1 and 10, it can't be 10 because if it's 10, then it can be just lumped into the power of 10 factor. So it has to be less than 10, okay, but it could be 1. So it can be greater than or equal to 1. So any number greater than or equal to 1 but less than 10 can be that first factor. So I just want to make that point clear. Okay, so I'm going to count the number of place values that I would have to move the decimal point in order to obtain a number that's at least 1 but less than 10. Okay? Once I do that, then I'm going to round that number that I got to the appropriate number of decimal places that I'm asked to round to, whatever that may be. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the power of 10 factor. And I'm going to use the exponent, right? So I'm going to use the number of places that I counted in step 1 to tell me what the exponent should be of my power of 10 factor that I'm going to add in step 2. Okay? Now, that, depending on whether I count from the left or count from the right, will determine whether my exponent is negative or positive. Okay? So, if I'm moving the decimal point to the right in order to get my number in step 1, okay, that means that I'm going to have to multiply by a power of a negative number, all right, because in order to get back to where I started from, I have to multiply by a 10 to a negative number. The exponent has to be negative. If I move my decimal point to the left in order to get that number between 1 and 10, then I'm going to have to add a power of 10 factor that has a positive exponent because, again, to get back to my original number, I have to multiply by a power of 10 that's positive exponent, okay, with a positive exponent. Okay, so let's do some examples and it'll be abundantly clear.